Hi guys, welcome to another video. If you've been following me for a couple of years now, then you may recall that I built a house and got handover 2 years ago. So December of 2017, I moved into my brand new house. And from then on, I have been trying to get things finished, and it's been a long process, and it hasn't just, all happened like that and we're done. It has been a long and in some cases difficult process to get to where I am now, and catching up on my update videos along the way. By my last update video, which was this time last year, I wasn't very happy, and I can see that I'm like trying to hold it together, but I was really struggling. My neighbor next door didn't want me getting a fence up, was about to build her house, and I was just so like, what's gonna happen with my cats? And this is feeling really unfair. I can't do anything about it. It's not the situation that I would have imagined. There will be heaps of people coming and going, and my backyard will be completely open to them. It's not something I'm very happy about. It is causing me a lot of stress. I have tried to compromise with her that we just have a portion of the fence up from the back of the block to the back of my house, and then the rest is just completely left as it is. That way at least I can enclose that backyard and put like a gate on the front. Unfortunately, things just aren't going very well, and I can't do anything. It's out of my control. So that's how I entered 2019. And it's been a hard year when it comes to dealing with neighbors and trying to finish off my house. So I just wanted to quickly catch you up. I do have some big updates that have happened in the past like 6 to 8 weeks, and I want to put them into a video. I've got lots of footage, but this video would end up extremely long if I put it all in the one. So I'm going to split it over like 2, maybe 3 videos, and I think that'll be easier for you guys to watch than just one very long video. And if you're here, you've clicked on this, thank you. I know a lot of my viewers, they're here for the music, for the busking and all that. And this is just a personal vlog, what's been going on in my life and everything. So I appreciate that not everyone wants to watch that, wants to hear what's been going on. So thank you for being here. So at the start of this year, I knew that my neighbor was in the position of not wanting the fence up until her house had been finished and she was moving in. So I tried my best to deal with that. One thing that cropped up at the start of this year was that I found out she had put her house with a 5-meter setback from the street, and she should have put herself about 9 meters off the street to be in line with everything. So she decided she would go 5 meters, which wasn't allowed under the council regulations. When I built, my builders told me I needed to research what was allowed in my area, and then I had to put in a setback that the council would approve. So I did the research, and the research basically told me I needed to be in line with the houses on the street. So I either could be in line with the house on my left, or in line with the house on my right, or somewhere in between those two. There's certain restrictions on that, but that's the basic of what they allow. And so I had a look at what was on my street, and I set myself back 7.5 meters. And this is from the front, when you're looking at the block, the left corner, which this would be your right. So one of my moral building blocks is equality. We should all be able to get the same things, and we should all be held to the same things. So I've been held to having to follow the council guidelines, and I believe that everyone else should have to do that. So we all end up with the same, and we're all equal. I know this is a very trivial problem and everything, but this whole experience ended up doing nothing. Her build went ahead with her 5-meter setback that was at least 4 meters in front of the other houses. And it was a whole bunch of wasted time and energy and stress for me. And that was a whole disaster. That was over months of making calls, doing research, gathering documents, putting it all together in a complaint, putting it in. And got me nowhere. So the council didn't want a bar of it. They said it was done by a private certifier, so that means we can't do anything about it. And I'm thinking, well, how do the private certifiers have more rights than the council? I got in contact with a minister of our government, and they didn't want anything to do with it either. It was all just a waste of time. So that leads us into sort of the middle of the year. So if you're keeping up with my vlogs, I had those foster kittens. They were getting sick all the time. I was so stressed out. And so I finally got to go away to Queensland in May, and it was such the needed break. But when I got back, the day after, I woke up and had a knock on my door with someone saying, "Do you need to get your car out of your garage today?" And I'm going, I'm not sure. Why? Oh, because we're going to cut through your driveway to get power to the next door block. And I'm like, I haven't been told about this. What are you talking about? My driveway is a year old. It's so new and you're going to cut straight through it? But I felt powerless. I'd just come back and it was thrown at me. So I quickly moved my car out of the garage in case I needed to go. I got some video footage of that, which I'll insert here. So the guy put soil back into the hole, and he said that someone would be here within 6 weeks to fix it again. And I'm thinking, what? 6 weeks? But here I am, naive, I don't know anything. So I'm going, okay, it's 6 weeks. I just deal with it. And they'll have got it sorted. So 6 weeks pass. Another week passes. I'm busy. I don't have time to follow up on this. We get to 8 weeks. And so I finally call the builder and go, what the hell? Can I please get an ETA on when you're going to right my driveway that you just came and cut a big hole into? And they said, oh no, that's the owner's responsibility, not us. And that was pretty much the end of that phone call. The next day they called me back. Obviously the person who spoke to me it didn't say the right thing, and they got quite worried. So they had someone else call me back the next day, and they were like, oh, the owner had no idea about this. We dropped the ball. We didn't tell her. And I'm sorry, but she would have known. She's come by our house a million times. But anyway, let's just pretend like she didn't know. They're like, oh, we've called her and we've only just informed her. So let's say she did find out at 8 weeks. In the meantime, because of the builder's first response, I'd called council and said, what are my rights here? Was this even allowed to happen without my consent, without my prior knowledge, And basically the end of the council thing was that, yes, it could happen without my knowledge. Yes, they were allowed to do it, but it should have been righted within 48 hours of having been cut. 48 hours, and here we are at 8 weeks. So my neighbor finds out. She contacts me and goes, oh, we'll get it sorted. Let's just go long story short and say that it didn't get sorted for another 4 weeks. And in the meantime, there'd been a group of guys that were going to do it that rocked up and just started shoveling dirt out of my driveway, making a hole, and didn't knock on my door, didn't anything. And I'm like, hello, my car's in the garage. I need to go out. Can you just, I don't know, give me some warning maybe on my property that things are gonna happen? And then because I had spoken with my dad and he said it needs to be done right, when we put the driveway in, there were steel mesh, reinforcement mesh in the concrete, which allows the whole concrete slab to move together. Our land here is very reactive, so it's constantly moving, and if those pieces, like if the new strip of concrete isn't connected into the pieces that are being cut, they'll all move separately. So it needs to be done right, and it needs to be connected. It needs to be bolted in. I went up to the guys that had just, started digging a hole or whatever, and I'm like, is it going to be done like this? And they're like, oh, yeah, we can do it like that. And then it started to rain. They decided they would put the soil back into the hole and that they were going to come back and do it. So, needless to say, I gave the guy my number and said, can you let me know that it's definitely going to happen so that I can be prepared and have my car out of my garage. And then the next day I get a message from my neighbor saying that due to the conversation with me, the guys that she had organized were no longer interested in the job. Interested in doing it right? I mean, my conversation was really nothing. And so then she said, now council will be doing it, so fine, whatever, I need someone to do it. And she said they would be there the next week. Well, it ended up, after all this, it was basically 3 full months, my driveway got fixed. My perfectly good driveway that was cut into finally got fixed after 3 months. Yay, so happy. Moving on, still no fence. So her house finally gets finished and we're still struggling over fences because not only does she want a different color to me, she wants to build her block up and put in all these retaining sleepers. And so she's gone ahead and got council approval for this, and there's nothing I can do to say, well, look, my block is natural land and she doesn't need as much retaining as she's put in on this document, and it's all just really overkill and it's going to make my fence like a prison wall and all that, but there's nothing I can do, so I've just got to go ahead with it, whatever. And then we're looking at quotes, and so she sends me a quote where she's included 27 meters of retaining sleepers, and I'm going, I don't need that. I don't, what the hell? Why have you got this on here? This isn't anything to do with me. You're the one that wants to retain. And after all this trouble, my dad's like, just go with it. Like, I know it's not what you should be having to pay for, but we're just over this. Just say, yes, okay, I'll pay that amount. So I did that, but she hadn't included anything about the, we'd agreed in person, vocally, that one side would be spray painted, one side. Well, I want a cream fence, she wants a dark grey fence, and she puts it that a dark grey fence is going to be installed. And I'm like, oh my God, nothing on there about painting the fence. And I mean, there was a message that came through that Facebook didn't let me know about until a few days after. So she had got a quote for spray painting. And it was through the roof. It was like $3,000 or something. It was insane. And so I hadn't responded to that, and she'd sent me this other quote, the Form 1 and whatever, that just said the fence would be woodland grey. So, there was that little bit of extra information there. She wasn't completely trying to do me over then. But yeah, so I said, okay, I'll pay that amount, but the fence goes up in classic cream, and then we paint the grey on your side over the top, because it's only logical that you put the lighter colour on and paint the darker colour over the top. Otherwise it's going to require more coats, it's going to be more expensive and all that. So I would have been fine with my side being painted, but it would have required more quotes, it would have been more expensive, and I didn't want to have to pay for that. So if she'd come back at me and said, well, no, your side has to be the one that's painted, I'm not having my side painted, I would have said, well, okay, you pay the difference then on the costs here to paint that fence then, because I'm not having some splotchy, 2 coats of cream over a grey that you can still see the grey through. I know, sorry. It's all complaining, it's all trivial, it's all like first world problems. You build a house and you want it to be the way you want it, and you get used to having to compromise, and she didn't want to compromise. It was really, really difficult. She wanted things the way she wanted them, and that was it. Whereas I had a lot more give, like, okay, can't have your fence up till you've built because you don't know what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I guess my life will be like this for the next 8 months. Excuse me, sorry. Anyway, so we're back and forth with this. We end up deciding that we will have a double-sheeted post and rail fence. So you basically end up with 2 fences. So we worked out that the cost of installing the fence and getting it painted was pretty much equal to doing this double-sheeted post and rail fence. So that's the way we decided to go. Come the day of putting the fence in, and the fencing guy approaches me and says, okay, just so you know, at this part of your property, you're going to have a 1,500 high fence when it's meant to be 1,800, and you're just going to have to deal with having a shorter fence here. And I'm going, what? I meant to have a standard height 1,800 fence along my property, and if I had just got a fence up when I first bought my property, it would have been standard height 1,800, and it would have been done, and I wouldn't have paid much more than I ended up paying in the long run. I wish I could go back in time and just be like, just put it up. Just inform the neighbor that's selling that you're putting it up and just do it, because it's going to be so much easier. I actually ended up fighting about that 1,800, 1,500 high situation and saying, I have every right to have a standard fence here. It's not going to exceed 2.1 meters, which is when you need council approval. We haven't discussed this. I haven't okayed this. You've put 1,800 high sheets here. Don't cut them down. Like, this is not fair to just say that I'm going to get a shorter fence here. I'm trying to contain cats. And she says she doesn't hate them. She's just afraid of how they jump, but she does not like cats. And so the last thing I want happening is them being able to get over the fence and into her yard. So I want to be able to keep them contained, and that's that. So luckily I ended up winning on that one, finally, and they kept my side of the fence at 1.8, and then her side also was 1.8 from her property. Basically, it's just not been a good experience, but we're through the end of it now. The fence, I ended up with another issue because of how it sat on her retaining wall. It just hung over the edge on my side, and they didn't want to put any capping on it to finish it off and actually make it look nice on my side. It also looks pretty terrible with all the burn marks which are visible on my side. It's really gross and disgusting, but yeah, I'll maybe sort that at a later date. They also put the fence sheets, instead of, as they dropped them, putting the dropped one like over the top so that the edge at the bottom was clean, they've laid this one over like that, and so you get like a little edge here above the other edge, and it's not very good. I wouldn't recommend them. Like it's just a big old mess, and they weren't like a lot of people I've dealt with have been really great contractors, and had they worked out, oh, there's this problem here and we should really cap this edge because it looks really disgusting. It's just hanging over and there's a raw edge of metal just hanging there. And, oh, we hadn't really thought about this. Well, we'll fix it. No, that wasn't it. It was, oh, yeah, we didn't think about it. So you can pay us extra and we'll come back. But otherwise, we're just going to leave it because we didn't think about it. Great, no worries. And also my neighbor changed the contractor, and she didn't let me in on it. She was like, I've just done this. We're now going with this person. I had no say. I was so cut out, and I hated that. At least the last time I put up a fence, my neighbor and I met the fencing contractor together, and there was a lot more communication, and gosh, that was just like an easy as experience. We both wanted a fence, we put a fence up, we both wanted the same color, it was the same color, done. Fences suck. So yeah, the fences are up now. I actually also got the back fence put up. I gave the notice to the neighbor at the back of my property, and I decided to go the easy route and just pay for it all myself. Because that block is also in the process of being sold. I think it's sold now, but it was all like, I don't know what I'm gonna get if I don't just like say, you don't have to contribute anything, just let me do it. And luckily, I didn't get any like pushback from that, so I was able to replace that short fence that was falling down at the back of my property with a just slightly higher than standard height fence. It looks so much nicer. And I got a gate. So I'm gonna end this video here, I think, because you're basically caught up. I've been doing some little DIYs and a few other things with my house, so I'm gonna put that into the next video. I'm sorry this video has been a lot of complaining, but this has been my year. This is why it's unfortunately been creeping into a lot of my videos, and just my mood in general has been like down here because the stress of all this has had me going insane and I've like kept quiet about it all. It is just amazing now to have an enclosed yard. There is the possibility that the fencing guy is coming back at like the start of next year to fix the fence panels that have been slotted in wrong, but who knows how that will go. And at least my yard is enclosed and I fixed the capping issue, which you'll see in the next video. So thank you for bearing with me. Hopefully I can cut out a bunch of this and it doesn't end up as long as the recording time. Oh, 2019, people. I am going to be so glad to say goodbye to this year. Welcome in 2020. Hopefully it's so much better. 2-year anniversary of my house. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll catch you again soon. Bye.